Our next inductee, Mr. David Kinsella. You guys here at Portland, you have enjoyed some monster long-distance runners. Some absolute legends, we'll use that word again, over the decades. One of the most prolific is Mr. Kinsella.
David Kinsella has the most decorated cross-country career in University of Portland's remarkable distance running history. He owns the program's top 2 individual finishes at the NCAA Cross-Country Championships, guided the pilots to 3 top 14 team finishes at Nationals, was a 3-time All-West Region selection, and added an All-American award in outdoor track as well. Kinsella's 4th place individual finish at the 2008 NCAA Cross-Country Championships still stands as a program record and helped Portland match its best team finish of 7th place overall at the time. It capped an impressive season, which featured him winning the WCC individual title by a remarkable 50 seconds, as well as individual victories at the Bill Dellinger Invitational and West Coast Preview. His 2007 season was nearly as impressive, with an 8th place finish at Nationals and runner-up showing at Regionals. As a redshirt freshman in 2005, Kinsella placed 12th at Regionals and was Portland's number 2 finisher at the NCAA Championships, as the team placed 9th overall. Kinsella earned All-American honors in the 10,000-meter race at the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships with a 12th place finish. He was named the University of Portland's Male Student Athlete of the Year in both 2007 and 2009 and capped his career by receiving the 2009 WCC Postgraduate Scholarship.
Hi. You comfy?
All right.
You comfy?
Good.
Let's chat. Okay. Kind of over the course of the evening, I've asked all the honorees how they landed at the University of Portland. Your turn.
I met Rob. Sorry, Rob's my coach, or was my coach.
That would be Rob.
It would be RC, Rob Connor.
RC, the one and only Rob Connor.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of the end of the story.
That's it? The
Look,
impact of the man.
Rob is unique. I'm like trying to figure out how to distill this into a few words. You meet a lot of coaches, right, who are like, I'm going to make you so fast, right? And you're like, that's weird. You're going to run a lot of miles here. And Rob probably said something like kind of weird, like, I like Slayer. I was like, all right, that's different. And then he had me to campus, and I remember having the distinct impression that like Rob was like a cult figure status amongst the team.
He was.
I mean, he is.
It is, yeah.
But I think the thing that I like the most, other than obviously, a lot of the athletes here have talked about like, look, I came on, I didn't want to be here, and then I got here, and then a little sense of community, and that's all very, very true. I think the thing that, and I felt all of that, I think the thing that I liked the most was everyone on the team when I visited, right? Whether or not you were like John Moore, like up and coming, or like, you were like B team, you might never make it to WCCs. They all had like their own version of a Rob story. And when I showed up to practice, right, it was clear that like Rob cared about each and every one of them, right? It was like, yeah, John, whatever, get out of my way. Like, how are you doing, Derek? And I loved that vibe. I love that vibe.
I think, I wish Rob could be here tonight, and obviously,
Yeah, me too.
He's at a meet or something?
I think he's flying back from Wisconsin, yeah. I'll see him tomorrow.
Okay, well, I think it would tickle him to hear you say, it's not the first time he's heard that, but knowing him just a little bit, I think that would go straight to his heart. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. What you did in terms of your career here, cross country and outdoor track, stands alone in so many ways. Folks around here still talk about that 4th place finish at the NCAA Cross Country Championships back in 2008. Still stands, I think, as a UP record, what you did in terms of your finish. And yet, it was a sketchy dinner choice. Right before regionals.
Are you going to make me talk?
Pardon me?
I'm surprised you're going to make me talk about this, but
yes,
keep going.
we are. We're going to talk about shrimp gone bad, and you're going to tell everybody where you were and how you made the menu choice that set you up for some horrible days of illness before nationals. Go.
All right, so I think first thing you have to know is that this season wasn't supposed to happen. Like,
What does that have to do with your menu choice?
well, I think it has to do with the feeling I had, because this all comes back to Rob at the end for nationals,
okay.
right? So I'll get to
Then
menu choice,
please,
right? But like,
okay, all right.
I didn't run all summer, and like that's the equivalent of like saying I haven't opened the textbook the night before the exam, you know? And so
Okay.
in many ways, it was like the season's supposed to happen. I remember turning to Rob when I got healthy in September, and I was like, I'm gonna run a lot of miles. I'm gonna get really, really fast. And I did. And the season was going excellently, and we show up to regionals. It's at Stanford. It's like 2 days before the meet. And Rob's like, let's go across the street from the hotel to this bowling alley for dinner.
For dinner. For dinner.
They serve Thai food.
Oh man, you can't make this up.
And I'm a dummy, so I'm like, I'll get the shrimp. So we're running the course the next day, and I'm like, I'm so good, I got shrimp. And then we got back from previewing the course, and I like puke all over myself, and I'm like, Coach, I think I'm in trouble. And he's like, no, you're fine. So then I'm like, okay, I'm fine. And then I show up and I do the race the next day, and I'm not fine. And I ran just well enough to qualify. And then I'm like, I don't know, Coach, I don't feel too good. And he's like, nope, you're fine. And then we get to the airport to fly home, and like I black out. Next thing I know, I'm in the aid van. And you know, there's like two EMTs, and they're like poking me, and like Rob's peering over them, like he's like, "Kins, photo."
Slayer.
Slayer. I'm like, that's good, Rob. So you know, then they go and they like pump me full of fluids, and I go back to the hotel, and Rob's like, yeah, whatever, give me your computer, I got to post on Let's Run. And I'm like, okay. And the next day rolls around, we're gonna fly back to Portland at 5. He's like, let's go out for lunch. And he takes me back to a Thai food restaurant.
What?
And I'm like, are you kidding? And then I get sick again. And the aid truck has to come pick me up from the second Thai food restaurant. They're probably looking at me like, what is wrong with you? You know, Rob's like, Slayer. And then I'll spare you guys the details. It's a very gory 6 days right up until nationals, and I'm not running, and I don't feel good. And Rob, like the night before the race, does like the best Rob thing, which kind of goes back to like why I picked Rob, right? Where like everyone has this individual relationship, and he's like, yeah, whatever, John. Where he basically takes me aside and he's like, this doesn't matter. I don't expect anything from you. And I mean that in the most loving way possible, right? Like I'm already hard enough on myself, like, oh, be faster, like run more, whatever. And like Rob was like a very good counterbalance to that. And he was just like, hey, this doesn't matter. You ate some bad shrimp. This race is gonna suck. And I was like, oh, that's good. That's exactly what I need to hear. And I felt extremely calm, you know, before that race, and it just went really well.
You tell me that you're comfortable being a front runner, and yet in that race, that memorable race, you kind of wait back in the weeds before you make your move, correct?
That's right.
Why was that the game plan on that day? Or was it literally the feel as you looked at the field?
You know, in some way, I think I kind of expected failure.
That day?
Yeah, because like, I mean, again, I hadn't been running, like, it was bad news. And that calmness, there was a certain sort of tranquility, right, where I go out and I'm like, oh, this feels good, I'm just gonna move up. And there's like, oh, this feels really good, I'm gonna move up. Like, these guys are all chumps, like, I'm gonna win. So it developed a bit differently, but I think it was good for me.
You had injuries while you were here at the University of Portland. You and I talked about you can't help but wonder on occasion what might have been. Is that correct?
Oh yeah.
Keep going.
And I'm wondering. Yeah, I mean, I think a few people tonight have talked about injury. I think that's like pretty natural for an athlete, right? To like constantly be like, okay, I could like see myself. I think like visualizing yourself at the next stage of performance is like a pretty, probably pretty common athlete experience. I think one thing that I'm really grateful for, right, is I had this great cross country last season. I was injured for the last season of track. It was this sort of like didn't quite feel right the way it ended. Sort of petered out, right? Everyone ran their final track season. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to graduate. Something that didn't feel right about that. I feel very grateful for Rob picking up the phone when I was in law school, first year of law school, and I was like, hey, Rob, I'm feeling kind of insane. I need to work more. Do you think you can help me run a bit more? And he's like, yeah. And he got me hooked up with like with a shoe deal to just keep me going while I was in law school. And I got to train really, really hard, get in really, really good shape. Thanks to my mom, got Irish citizenship. You know, I was like, oh, Olympics, like here we go.
You were this close.
This close.
To
And
the
then,
marathon.
you know, refractured my foot right before the thing. But there's actually a lot of, I think, like peace that came from that,
Okay.
right? There was like, sort of like, I got to give it the old, you know, I think someone said previously, college try. But going out on my terms, I think, has like helped me sort of counterbalance a lot of those feelings of like, how could that have been? So I'm grateful for that like post-collegiate chapter.
As you reflect on your time here at the University of Portland, I remember when you and I had the good fortune of chatting, you talked about the culture here and how that impacted you. How about you impacting the culture yourself? I'd love to know how much that means to you to know that you made your mark here so that other guys could say, why not me?
I mean, that's kind of everything. I think Tansy said it really, really well. I'm not going to say it any better than Tansy said it. It's huge. And look, I think it's like, again, it's a huge testament to Rob where he's able to create continuity through teams. You know, like we have, many of you won't see this. Eventually there'll be a guy up in this stage in like, I don't know, 5 years named Woody who like, I think he has like the American 5K record or like something like that. Like it's kind of nutty, like how far like this sort of like, you know, giant shoulders dynamic has sort of compounded like 10 turns of the crank. And like, I remember coach giving me a call when I was at law school and being like, hey, come, you know, WCC championship, like just come support. And I went there and, you know, clapped and like, hooray. And you know, Woody wasn't anybody. And his mom was like, oh, come shake this guy's hand, right? And I have like a photo with this guy. And we said a few things and he's just like, I'm gonna be really fast. And I was like, I think you are. And then he is, right? He's like insanely fast.
Heck yeah.
Like insanely fast. So, to have played some part in that sort of like tapestry is such a wonderful feeling.
That's cool as hell. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. David, may your next shrimp dinner be a little bit, end up with better results. But you are a Hall of Famer and congratulations. You are lovely.
Real lovely.